Every year, millions of people try to leave their Medicare Advantage plans. They do so because they're trying to improve their insurance. They're trying to get away from provider networks, HMOs and PPOs. They're trying to get away from pre-authorizations that Advantage plans require on them. They're trying to reduce the risk so they'll spend less out of pocket if they had a serious health issue. But many of those people find out that it's impossible for them to leave their Advantage plan. So in this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what it takes to leave an Advantage plan, and specifically the 30 health questions that you have to pass in order to leave that plan. Now, just before we get into those 30 health questions, I'm going to pose a couple other questions that I think will be also helpful. Number one is this: why would people want to leave their Advantage plans? After all, Advantage plans have zero premium other than what you pay Medicare. They have all kinds of perks. And these are the kind of things that people really find attractive about their Advantage plan. So why would they want to leave a plan like this? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because what Advantage plans have, first of all, is they have provider networks. Provider networks. And what happens is this: these provider networks are either going to be an HMO or a PPO. And so what happens is we have restrictions, we have limitations. If you're on an HMO plan, you have to have a referral typically to see a specialist. You don't have the right to go out of network unless it's an emergency situation, meaning you're confined to that HMO network. HMO networks are not real large. There certainly are hospitals and doctors in those, but they're not as large as what a PPO would be. And so there's networks they have to deal with when we're on Advantage plans. PPOs are larger for sure, but the issue is if you go out of network, which you have the right to do, it costs you a tremendous amount more money. Stay in the network, you may spend $5,000 a year. Go out of network, could cost you $10,000 or $12,000 a year. So my whole point is that's why people leave them. They get tired of dealing with the networks. We've seen recently whole hospital groups pulling out of the network. We'll have a doctor in network one year and they are not in the next year. And so there's a hassle with these networks as people age. They're annoyed by that. The second reason people get out of these plans is because of this word right here, and that is called a pre-authorization. Advantage plans, they say from 70 to 72% of the healthcare services you need are going to have to go through the pre-authorization process. What's that mean? You need an MRI, or you need a CAT scan, a PET scan, a surgery, inpatient or outpatient. You need a knee replacement or a hip replacement. You need an extended skilled nursing stay. All these things require insurance approval. So just because the doctor says you need something and recommends it doesn't mean you're going to get it. The insurance company has pre-authorization right. That means they have the final say-so. And so sometimes they say immediately, we'll cover that. And sometimes they delay the coverage. Sometimes they flat deny the coverage. And people get tired of this pre-authorization process. They just try to get away from that. Also, when it comes to Advantage plans, you have what we call a pay-as-you-go system. Pay-as-you-go. So many people think that Advantage plans are zero cost out of pocket. They're not. Now, they're usually zero premium to the insurance company to be on the plan, but they're not going to be zero to go to the hospital, zero to see a specialist, zero to have a surgery, ever. You pay as you go. And so people find that as they pay as they go, especially if they have a serious health issue, they're going to spend more in that system than they would if they just had a wonderful supplemental plan. All right? And so the point is, that's why people want to leave them. Now, I can tell you, agents want you to stay in them because as agents, we make more commissions on Advantage plans. We also make lifetime residual on Advantage plans. So the agent, they're very pushy about Advantage plans. In fact, I tell people all the time, if you're talking to an agent and they never tell you about some of the disadvantages of the Advantage plan, these things I mentioned, and they don't tell you about another option called a supplemental plan, I would run as fast as I could away from that agent. That's an agent that is doing one thing, and that's an agent that's trying to sell you something that's going to pay them the most amount of money instead of being concerned about making sure you have the greatest amount of coverage. All right, so that's the reason people want to leave Advantage plans. Now, question number 2 is this: when can people leave their Advantage plans? Well, here's the way it works. There are times you can leave an Advantage plan. Those dates are very clear, etched in stone, October 15th to December 7th. We make a decision to switch and leave the plan, and our new plan would go into effect January 1. Another time we can do this is January 1 to March 31st. This is called OEP. As long as I'm on an Advantage plan, January 1, I have these 3 months where I can also leave the Advantage plan. So here's what happens. Here I can leave, here I can leave. Now, if I leave during this period of time, I leave in January, my new plan will go into effect February. If I leave in February, a new plan goes March, leave March, it'll start in April. All right, so that's the kind of difference between these two different open enrollment periods. We call this annual election period, and this we call the open enrollment period. Okay, so here's my point though. When can people leave these plans? We have this period of time to do it, but what happens if you have been on an Advantage plan for a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, like most people, and now they want to leave and they want to return to traditional Medicare A and B and get a supplemental plan, then what has to happen is they have to medically qualify to do that, okay? And that's what we're going to talk about in my video, how they medically qualify. That's where the 30 health questions come into play. And so you got to medically qualify to do that. You just can't move because they have this period of time. You have to qualify during this period of time to make that move. Hey, if you found this video helpful and if you want to see more Medicare information just like it, then go below, right below the video, and you can give us a thumbs up as well as subscribe to our channel. And every time I put a new video, which is about 2 every week, you'll be notified of that video, and others just like you who need this vital information will get it as well. All right, that poses to us another question. That's this. To leave that Advantage plan, why do we as insurance agents, as brokers, have to ask you 30 health questions? Let me answer the question. Okay, here's the way it works. When you first go on Medicare, so you're going to enroll into Medicare, let's just say your birthday is, let's say it's March 15th, 1959, okay? And you're eligible for Medicare at 65, so you actually could start your Medicare 3/1/2024. And let's say that's what you do. So you enroll into Medicare, and you've got a Medicare card that says A date effective 3/1/2024, and you got a B date of 3/1/2024. All right? And during this particular period of time, we call this a Medigap OEP. And what's that mean? So this is someone that has chosen not to take an Advantage plan, but rather to enroll into a Medigap policy, a Medicare supplemental plan. And what happens during this original Medigap OEP, Medicare gives us 6 months of our B date where we can have any plan that we want, any supplemental plan, whether it's a G plan or an N plan, or whatever plan you want, any carrier, whoever it is that you choose. And you can have this without any medical underwriting whatsoever. That's called the Medigap OEP, but it's a limited period of time. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in most states, and it's tied to the B date of Medicare. And why does that matter? Well, because sometimes people enroll into A only, and then they pick up B, let's say a couple years later when they retire, and they would have a 3/1/2026 date on their B. Right? And so if I had A only for a couple years, then I have a B date just later. But whether I start at 65 or I start Medicare Part B at a later time, this B date is the key. And this opportunity to get a Medigap policy with no underwriting only lasts 6 months. Now, I can actually apply 6 months in advance so that everything goes effective on my B date. My B date starts, my supplemental plan starts all at the same time. Okay, so I can apply in advance, or I can also apply 6 months within 6 months after. All right, so the way that would work in this example, that 6 months would be March, April, May, June, July, August, which means September. In this example, 2026, in this example, 2024, but from September 1 on, in all but 4 states, if I ever want to get a supplemental plan, now I have to medically qualify. Why? Because my Medigap OEP has now expired. It's terminated. Why? Because it only lasts 6 months of the B date. And during this 6 months, we can ask you no health questions. We have to accept all your pre-existing conditions. We won't ask about any of your medications, no health issues whatsoever. The insurance company has to issue the policy. They have to approve the policy. But after that 6-month window is closed, except in 4 states, now you have to medically qualify. Now that insurance company does not have to take you. They're not obligated under law to approve your policy. Now they may, as long as you can pass underwriting, but they don't have to. So they have the right to deny your coverage, except in New York, Connecticut, Maine, and Massachusetts. They have periods of time where you don't have to medically qualify. But so if you're not in New York, Connecticut, Maine, or Massachusetts, in all the other 46 states plus District of Columbia, you have to medically qualify after that 6-month window is over. And so that's why I'm saying we have to ask you 30 health questions, not during the first 6 months, but after that, it's required. All right, that brings us into the fourth question, and really a major question of our video today, and that's this. What is the qualifying process? In other words, what does it take to actually leave an Advantage plan? And so now we know that we're beyond that 6 months of our Medigap OEP, subject to underwriting, and we've been on that Advantage plan now a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And so what's the process? Well, the first thing you have to do is you're going to have to make application. Now, it doesn't cost any money to apply, but you have to fill out an insurance application. Of course, that's what we do as brokers. And then that information that we're going to gather, it's going to include the 30 health questions, right? It's going to include the medications that you take. And this information is going to go to an underwriter, okay? And now that we're beyond that 6-month window of our B date, been on the Advantage plan now for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, what happens now, the underwriter can say yes, or the underwriter can say no. All right? And how you answer these health questions I'm getting ready to read to you will determine whether you're going to get the policy or not. All right? So let's go through the 30 health questions. In fact, as I go through them, answer them in your own mind. You can see whether you would be approved or not. Okay, so this is section 4 of an insurance application. Specifically, word for word, here's the questions. Here's what they say. If any health questions are answered yes in section 4, I'm getting ready to read it to you, the applicant or applicants will not qualify for this insurance coverage. Okay, so any yeses, that means you're going to be declined. You have to say no to all the questions. Here we go. Question number 1, are you dependent upon a wheelchair or any motorized mobility device? Do any of the following apply to you? Are you currently hospitalized, confined to a bed, in a nursing facility or assisted living facility? Are you receiving home health care or physical therapy? Again, if you say yes, declined. Number 3, and by the way, as I read number 3, I want you to know these are anytime questions. And anytime means anytime in your life had you had this health problem. We'll see here in a few minutes there could be a 36-month look back, 24-month look back, or a 12-month look back. But if I have any time for life, they're saying, if this ever happened to you, have you been medically diagnosed with, treated for, or had surgery for any of the following? And again, if you say yes, you're declined. Congestive heart failure, unoperated aneurysm, defibrillator, leukemia, lymphoma, multiple myeloma, cirrhosis of the liver, Parkinson's disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, chronic kidney disease, kidney failure, kidney disease requiring dialysis, renal insufficiency, or Addison's disease. Any condition requiring a bone marrow transplant or stem cell transplant, or any condition requiring an organ transplant. AIDS, age-related complex, or HIV. All right, now those are the anytime in your life questions. Now we go to diabetes. Question number 1 about diabetics. Have you been medically diagnosed with, treated by a member of the medical professional for diabetes that requires the use of insulin? If you say yes, you're declined. Which means what? If you don't take insulin, if you're like a type 2 diabetic and you're just taking some oral meds, they may look at you. Diabetes question number 2. Have you ever been treated for or diagnosed of having any complications with your diabetes, including retinopathy, neuropathy, peripheral vascular or arterial disease, or heart artery blockage? If so, declined. Diabetes with history of a heart attack or stroke at any time, declined. Treated with medication that has been changed or adjusted in the past 12 months because of uncontrolled blood sugar. So again, whatever you're on has to maintain a good level for you. Okay, so if you change your meds, last 12 months, decline. Now we're going to do the 36-month look back. So that means if this health condition was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, you're fine. But if it's happened in the last 36 months, you're declined. In the last 36 months, have you been medically diagnosed with, treated for, or had surgery for any of the following? Alcoholism, drug abuse, cardiomyopathy, atrial fibrillation, AFib, anemia requiring repeated blood transfusions or any blood cancer or blood disorder, internal cancer, melanoma, Hodgkin's disease, hepatitis, any disorder of the pancreas, declined. All right, now 36-month look back. Now we're going to a 24-month look back. So again, if it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you're fine. Last 24 months, declined. Last 24 months, medically diagnosed with, treated for, had surgery for any of the following: enlarged heart, mini stroke, regular stroke, peripheral vascular disease, arterial disease, neuropathy, amputation caused by disease, myasthenia gravis, systemic lupus, or any connective tissue disorder, osteoporosis with fractures, Paget's disease, arthritis that restricts mobility or the activities of daily living. It is very hard today to get rheumatoid arthritis through any carrier. Next, any lung or respiratory disorder that requires the use of a nebulizer or oxygen or 3 or more medications for lung or respiratory disorders. Another one, any lung or respiratory disorder and currently using tobacco products. All right, so again, if you had any kind of emphysema, COPD, those kind of things, you're going to be declined. Last 12 months, so 12 months, look back. Again, 2-3 years ago, doesn't matter, just last 12 months. Have you been advised by a medical professional to have treatment, further evaluation, diagnostic testing, or surgery that has not been performed, or do you have any pending test results? So doc said you needed a knee replacement. You didn't do it. You're declined. Doc said you need cataract surgery. You didn't do it. You're declined. You just had an MRI, CAT scan, don't know the results yet. You're not going to be approved either. Okay, so anything that's pending in the last 12 months that you have not taken action upon, you're declined for that. Next question. Within the last 12 months, have you been medically diagnosed with, treated for, or had surgery for a heart attack, artery blockage, or heart valve disorder? Decline. Last 12 months, been medically diagnosed with wet macular degeneration and have taken or are currently receiving injections? Decline. Last 12 months, do any of these apply to you? Had a pacemaker implanted. For a man that's under age 60, had a PSA blood test greater than 4.5, you're declined. Age 70, PSA blood test greater than 6.5, you're going to be declined. Or ever had a seizure. Last health question on section 4, was your last blood pressure reading higher than 175/100? Again, if you say yes, you're going to be declined. So all those health questions have to be 100% no for you to get approved. Now, these next set, I'm almost done with this, is not yes or no. They just want to know about things so they can check into them. So these kind of things are not automatically declined, but could be. They say this, in the last 24 months, if you have been medically diagnosed, treated, or had surgery for any brain, mental, or nervous disorders, provide the reason and the diagnosis. In the last 5 years, if you've been hospitalized, treated at an outpatient facility or emergency room, provide reason and diagnosis. Again, doesn't mean you're going to be declined. They just want to know about it. And then lastly, list the name of any medications you're taking and the reason why. And that's meds you're taking now and have for the last 24 months. And then we're going to ask about your primary care physician so they can make contact with that doctor if necessary. And then if you've seen any specialist in the last 24 months for any reason, you got to mention that specialist and the reason and diagnosis for seeing them. Okay, that's the process involved in getting an Advantage plan. We have to go through underwriting. So what's going to happen, it's going to go to the underwriter after these questions are answered by you, and now we're going to get a response, either yes or no. Let's keep moving. Hey, Medicare can be very confusing. In fact, people make mistakes all the time because of how confusing it is. So what I've done is I've actually created a Medicare, notice this, Essentials Workshop, where you have the opportunity to really learn everything that you need to know about Medicare so that you can make Medicare decisions. There are thousands of people every month that watch this workshop, and we get lots of reviews saying that this is something that really was helpful to them. And so what you can do is down here below in the comments section, you'll see where it says pinned comment. At the very top of those pinned comments is a link. And you click on that link, what we're going to do is we're going to give you free access to this Medicare Essentials Workshop. And we want you to watch it because we don't want you to make any mistakes. All right, so with that process, what is really the best thing that can happen? The best thing that can happen is you get approved. Okay? In other words, that insurance company approves that application, and the reason I'm saying that's the best can happen because probably you're going to lower your monthly premium, but also what's happening, especially if you're 68 or 70 or whatever age, you're going to be able to reset the clock. Because when you first went into a Medicare supplemental plan, or you are now 70 and you're leaving an Advantage and going to a supplemental plan, what's going to happen? You're going into a new block of business, and that new block of business could be full of a lot of people that are 65 and 66, and so you may be 68 or age 70, and now you're going into a pool of business where those people are going to be younger. Also, it's a new block of business, which means there could be a lot of people within that block as well, which gives you a rate stability. So the point is, the best thing that can happen, you get approved, and now you're on that supplemental plan, and you keep that supplemental plan for life as long as you pay your premium. All right? Now, what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, the answer to that question is you get denied. Okay? You get denied. But the good news is, all you have to do is stay where you are. Why is that? Well, because to make application, number one, doesn't cost you any money, but number two, we don't cancel anything with your existing insurance. We just simply submit a new application. We go through the process. If we get approved, then you'll cancel your existing insurance. But again, if we get denied, you just simply stay where you are. Nothing is going to be altered whatsoever, okay? And so that's the worst thing that can happen. And so if you feel like you're in a position to answer those questions in the negative, where you can say no to all those, you want to save some money, or you want to leave your Advantage plan to get away from the networks and the pre-authorizations and the hassle of having to switch those plans on an annual basis, this would be a great time to do it.